Pine Bluff City Council meeting for September the 21st is hereby called to order. Okay, may we have roll call, please?
Alderman Brumman?
Here.
Alderman Stepps?
Here.
Alderwoman Walker?
Present.
Alderman Boyd?
Here.
Alderman Brown Sr.?
Here.
Alderman Mays?
Here.
Alderman Holcomb?
Here.
Alderman Brown Jr.?
Here.
Thank you. Each of you have a copy of the minutes
So
from
moved.
September the 8th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think we have got some guests in the audience tonight, and I'm not sure. Judge Brown?
National Teen Court Month, she went to get the proclamation, so we're gonna just wait until you get to
Okay, that is wonderful. We'll do so. We'll move on, and I'll get the notion from you as to when you're ready then. Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on to committee reports, Ways and Means, Alderman Brummett.
Yes, Mayor, the Ways and Means Committee met prior to the meeting, and we have 5 budget adjustments. 4 were in your packet and 1 that was added by the clerk. The first one is from the Inspection Department. It's additional budget to fund accounts through year end, and it's funded from within the department. It looks like the total amount is $7,000. I move we accept this budget adjustment from the Inspection Department.
Second. Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $7,000 for the Inspection Department to continue the funding for year end be approved. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a request from the Police Department for additional budget to fund accounts through year end within the department for medication and janitorial services involving the department's animal control program. I move we accept this budget adjustment from the Police Department.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second that a budget adjustment for the Police Department in the amount of $5,000 be approved. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a budget adjustment from the Police Department for $80,000. This is for furniture and furnishings for the new facility and to move into the new, in the Joe Thomas Public Safety Building real soon. The total amount is $80,000. It's from unused monies in the department for gas, lube, and oil. I move that we accept this budget adjustment from the Police Department.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $80,000 for the Police Department be approved. Floor is now open for discussion.
Well, Mayor, my question was answered in the meeting before the meeting as far as where the furniture was coming from and how will it be spent and will some of it be spent in town as far as I'm concerned. I'm satisfied with what I see here.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a request from the Street Department for $16,000 to cover the repair and maintenance heavy auto that is needed within the department. I move we accept this budget adjustment for $16,000 from the Street Department.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second that a budget adjustment for the Street Department in the amount of $16,000 be approved. Floor is now open for discussion.
I don't know who can answer this if Rick is here.
Yeah, he back
Or
there. In the
who?
back. Very back.
Okay, maybe Rick can answer this.
Mr. Rhoden, would you come up to the podium, please?
Okay, last time that this adjustment came before the council, that you had $16,000 that was coming from salaries. You said that it was paid from salaries. And so now you're taking it from overlay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you explain what the difference is between now and then?
The difference between now and then is still nothing. I have that much carryover in my salary budget, and so I figured we'd use it out of it. That was rejected, so we went to the overlay budget where that usually comes from, and so that's the reason why that it came up without the overlay budget.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Roden?
Okay, that's,
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a request from the Transit Department. This is 2014 transfer grant funds carryover to 2015. This is, of course, the transit grant to provide buses and other benefits to our citizens. The total amount is $180,591, and there's a breakdown of where the money is going to be utilized. And as I understand it, the Public Health and Welfare Committee met, discussed this in detail, and the committee approved, gave it a due pass to the council. So I move we accept this budget adjustment.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $180,591 for transit, and it represents the transit grant funds carryover, be approved. Floor is now open for discussion.
Mayor, I still want to know about the $50,000 it says for planning, and I never did get an answer of who, where that money was going to, who was going to receive that money. Does anybody know?
Mayor's still here. He came and gave an explanation.
Who?
Mr. Reynolds, would you like to come and explain again? Didn't we have a meeting on this week?
We had a meeting last Tuesday.
Okay.
I think Alderman, I think it went through for the Public Health and Welfare Committee, correct? Alderman Brown Jr.?
That's correct.
All right, the 50,000 is FTA, on that section, that is FTA 5307 planning funds. They are line itemed in the federal grant for transit under the 5307 program, and they are set aside for planning funds. These funds were programmed to help with the long-range transportation plan, et cetera, and they can only be used for planning purposes. Now, as far as where they're going to, I know there was questions on the bill, on the invoice. Our invoices, we have to account for the hours that we work. When we send in an invoice now, technically we don't have to do it for the city, but anytime we send in a claim with Highway Department or the feds, we have to itemize the hours we work on a project. And that's what was sent to you. Nobody at Transit gets a direct penny. It goes into the Transit, and I had in the packet that I handed out at the last meeting, I had where the invoice, I had actually account numbers where it goes to. As far as any individual, there are no personal checks written. It's no different. You go to Walmart and you buy Coca-Cola, you pay Walmart, you don't pay Coke. And
Okay, but you said that it goes to planning.
Southeast Arkansas Regional Planning Commission.
Okay. Well, before, we had received where there had been 3 individuals paid. One was paid $35 an hour and 2 others $25 an hour. Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, that's just the breakdown of how the hours were, how the amount was calculated. Based on the hours that person worked, that calculates the invoice amount.
Okay, so to $35 an hour and $25 an hour.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Reynolds? Thank you, sir. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes Ways and Means report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to, do we want to go ahead and do the proclamation now for the teen court? Okay. No, I said that wrong. Sorry.
Judge Brown and your team, will you please come forward? Will you come to the front and stand right here? Team court volunteers. Just come right across in here.
Come just circle right in front of here, make a big circle here. There you go. There we go.
We want to thank Judge Brown for these volunteers who come and service our city. Judge Brown, will you come and just stand right in the middle there too? Judge Brown is doing an excellent job every day working with our children and our youth, and I'm going to read this proclamation. My hat goes off to you and for all of you who are doing such a great job in our city. Proclamation. Whereas the office of the Circuit Judge, 6th Division, wishes to observe September as National Youth Teen Court Month, and whereas Teen Court has brought to the attention of Judge Ernest Brown in September 2009, modeled after programs in Faulkner County and Washington County. Teen Court's objective is to give first-time offenders a second chance by volunteering in the juvenile court system, as well as earning community service hours and striving to become better citizens in the community. And whereas youth court plays an important role in the juvenile justice system. Through youth court, youth adults are held accountable for their offenses by their own peers and are educated by the juvenile system and offers an opportunity to serve their communities. And whereas Teen Court also gives back to the community as well by volunteering during the holiday season, donating their time to the underprivileged and visiting the local nursing homes. Through many accomplishments, they have also been fortunate to have toured the state capitol. And whereas, with a minimum of 25 youth being eligible per year, Teen Court has helped over 150 youth to date. In the future, the 6th Division hopes to start a Teen Court Alumni Association and a parent support group to increase their efforts. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Hollingsworth, the mayor of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim September 21st, 2015 as National Youth Teen Court Month. In the city of Pine Bluff, in so doing, call upon all citizens to join us in recognizing this extraordinary commitment to teens over the years. In witness whereof, I have set my hands and caused the seal of the city of Pine Bluff to be affixed on this 21st day of September in the year of our Lord, 2015, Debbie Hollingsworth, the mayor of the city of Pine Bluff. And we do thank you so much for all of your efforts, your commitment, and your time, because it means so much to give of yourselves to help others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council.
Thank you.
Ernest, Judge, congratulations.
Now, y'all don't have to leave. You can stay and watch. Unless you have a lot of homework. I promise you we won't bite. Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Alderman Brummett?
Yes, Mayor, the Ordinance Resolutions Committee met prior to the meeting. As you see, we have 4 items on the agenda tonight. Items 1 and 2 are ordinances and will be read for the second time. The 2 resolutions will be completed. And I'd like to say happy birthday to my wife, Judy. Today's her birthday. I told her I was going to do that, and she said, "Don't do that." That concludes ordinance resolutions. Thank you.
Well, if you're going to wish someone happy birthday, I'm just going to have to say I had my 6th grandson this morning.
All that.
So, all boys. And the girl is to be determined later on in life. Thank you, sir. Economic and Community Development, Alderman Brown Sr.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually didn't have a meeting. However, I'm always concerned about our tax base. So I think next week, the parade getting me mixed up. I thought it was this week. I certainly hope that we have invited bands and participants from other parts of southeast Arkansas. The last rodeo parade was probably the worst parade I've ever seen in my life. It lasted about 5 minutes. That's telling me that somebody's not working hard. We need those bands from Warren and from Fordyce and from anywhere else they can come locally so they can buy a hamburger on the way out of here. We definitely need to build up that, and so I ask that you, all that have not, if it's not too late, to invite some bands from other parts of other parts of southeast Arkansas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public Health and Welfare, Alderman Brown Jr.
Yes, Mayor. We had a meeting on last Tuesday to discuss the FTA grant, which was just approved through the budget adjustments. But that was all for that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Public Works, Alderman Mays.
Mayor, Council, we didn't have a meeting, one scheduled yet. I believe there's some things on the agenda that's supposed to come through Public Works over the next couple of weeks. However, a lot of citizens are putting things out in front of their homes, trash, limbs, and things like that. And it's been some slack as far as picking them up, but the people are still calling. And you can call Waste Management at 247-3747. That's Waste Management at 247-3747. Or you can call our street department at 543-5101, and they'll make arrangements and accommodation to pick it up. So just kind of asking the citizens and the ones here to be patient, and most of the time it will be picked up, biggest part of the time. Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't there some type of criteria that they have to have, the limbs and things has to be vulnerable a certain kind of way?
That is correct. Yes.
And maybe that might be the reason some of them haven't been picked up, because they just going out there, playing them out there, and they're not gonna stop by and pick it up if it's not packaged like they asked for it to be packaged.
And I agree, some of them are not, and they're doing that, and then again, they're bringing it closer to the road. So like our street department, if it's pushed back up, they won't pick it up, but if you can bring it a little closer, they'll get it, and it is, but most of the people are going along, are doing what they're supposed to do with it, and I just appreciate the citizens that are really being patient. Even if when it's a holiday, that throws everything off a week. It's like Labor Day, some people wanted some things picked up right before Labor Day, and it was so much around the city they couldn't get it. And once again, I just want to thank you for your patience and your time.
But here's my concern. Why don't we try to educate them as to how it should be done? Then by virtue of just putting it closer to the street, it doesn't make it right. I understand, because I get a bunch of calls too, but we have to be able to tell the citizen, here's the way it has to be done, and then they will come by and pick it up, because I've made calls on several of them, and I went by there, and I see the reason why they don't go by there and pick it up.
Alderman Holcomb, but one of the things I'd like to say to that is that we've been giving the ordinance, and we've been educating the people at the town hall meetings as to how it's supposed to be bundled and what type they pick up. So all that information's been giving out for since 2013 at town hall meetings. Alderman Holcomb?
Well, you said what I was going
Oh,
to say.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes you can call Waste Management and you won't even get an answer.
And we're,
'Cause I called them the other day. They didn't pick up my trash and my regular trash.
we've been speaking to upper management quite frequently here of late, again. And I'm in hopes that they will send down some other management personnel to rectify the office problem. But it's been last couple of weeks. Yeah, there are some problems there.
I've been called upper management as well, so I understand what you're saying, Mayor. You have to go above and beyond to make things happen. That's, we all can do that. So I feel like the citizens should be able to do that as well, as far as a local person or female or male to call that waste management. But I mean, I have numbers that I can reach as well, and once again, they have been educated, but some people just haven't been educated on it. But I guess we can continue to do what we can to educate them, and I agree with you all.
Alderman Drummond.
I was just going to say that it's on the city TV channel, channel 16 on cable. When it rolls around, it will say exactly, gives you all the details of how big they can pick up. Also, it's on our website. There's information out there. I know a lot of people may not see it, but it's out there, and I see it quite often on channel 16 on cable.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. The citizens of Pine Bluff pay their garbage bills, and it's being collected by the water. And during the time of the last contract, I made the statement that anything that I don't want is theirs, which is garbage. And I get a lot of calls myself about garbage that stays in front of people's houses for sometimes 3 to 4 weeks, and it's an eyesore. And I'm not going to place any certain community, but there are some places where it's just sit and sit and sit. So I think what we do have a problem. We can minimize it with our thoughts and our thinking, but we do have a waste problem. You can educate the people, but if the waste management doesn't pick the trash up, we have a problem. And one more time, if it's something that I don't want, it belongs to them. It's trash. So we do have a problem, and some of you probably had that problem in the audience. You're just not saying anything, but I know that's a major problem and something that needs to be dealt with, and I think it's time to do it now. Thank you.
One of the things that we do, and I'm certainly not advocating people calling our office, but we've been tracking the problem since 2013. And one of the ways the contract can be broken is the lack of service. So we have been tracking different areas, and they know that we're tracking the areas, and we can give them a percentage of calls that we've been receiving. So lack of service and not fulfilling the contract as written is a way to avoid it. So there again, I'm not advocating being the call center for waste management, but we do, and they know that. And we've had 3 very strong meetings with them. It looks like we may have to have a 4th. But anyway, moving on, development and planning, Alderman Boyd.
We met on last week on the 15th, but don't necessarily have a report for the council.
Okay, thank you, sir. Traffic and aviation, Alderman Holcomb Jr.
Mayor, Traffic and Aviation will meet this Thursday, September the 24th at 2 p.m. And I wanted to bring us up to par on the Westgate Drive and Washington Street three-way stop sign. They were put into place, and also the LA Drexel Drive and Fluker Street three-way stop sign. They were put into place also, but we are waiting to get the reflectors to go on the road. They will be put into place on next week, according to Mr. Rick Roden. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Administration, Alderman Steps.
Mayor, we had a meeting on last week. Several weeks ago, we had to appeal of a termination that we reversed, but we failed to reinstate the person back during the time that they were terminated for their pay. So we met and went back and reversed that, so the person received the pay because it was stated that they were fired for no reason, and on the reinstatement, we failed to put the money back in there, so we went back and voted the money back in to make sure the person get paid from the time that they were terminated.
Do we need to have the council vote on that, or is the committee?
The committee is the one that voted on it.
You make a recommendation to the
I'll make
council?
a recommendation to the council to vote on my report.
I second that.
Just the report.
What is, anything that comes from committee still has to be approved by the council.
Not necessarily.
Not that, no.
The administration committee, is binding.
City attorney says it does.
Our city attorneys, Mr. Childers?
You do need to approve this. It does involve an appropriation of funds.
Yeah, that's what we got to worry about, George, the money that she's gonna get.
Right.
That need to come through.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we need to, can we do it on the floor, or do we need to go into executive session?
Well, you can do it on the floor. You're not mentioning the employee's name. You
Okay.
simply have to name an amount that
Okay.
Do you have the amount, Alderman Steps?
No, what is,
Vicky?
Vicky? She
Ms. Conaway, do you have that number
She's-
handy?
Yeah,
We didn't quite hear you come up.
$4,031.
$4,031 and change.
Thank you.
That's for how long? I mean,
That's for a month.
that's for a month? Okay,
That's since May, though. That's since before.
39 days.
39 days.
but that was just in the administration committee where you all went over that. You,
Alderman Steps.
Steps, Alderman Brown, and it was
Ms. Walker's on it.
Ms. Walker, Alderman Walker.
Alderman Steps.
I wasn't present.
Alderman Steps. May I make the motion and then we discuss?
I think it's been made into
It's already-
second,
it's already
Okay,
been made.
all right.
so we're discussing the amount.
Yeah,
Okay. Anybody else have any
I was
questions?
just wondering, so it took 39 days between the time where she was fired to the time it was appealed to, it just seems like a long time between the termination and the appeal date. So,
Here's what happened. At the time of the appeal, when the request was made, we were under the impression that the employee themselves had waited that length of time before they filed the appeal. Looking back at the documentation, we saw that the appeal was filed, but I think the misunderstanding came as to whether or not what the procedure from the employee back to HR. And I think that we got that rectified.
okay.
Now,
Yes, sir.
when you say rectified, what do you,
At the time when the person made the appeal, HR, we were under the impression that once the person made the appeal, then HR would be the one contact us as to, we would set up the meeting. But HR said that the appeal process was delayed because once the appeal was made, that the employee had to contact them back and say, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to appeal it. But on the form, it says the appeal process, but nowhere there it stated that you got to call us back. And so that's why we went ahead and approved it. But we put something in place at, last month, that they would have 5 days to come back to them and tell them, what they wanted to do.
If she was she not out more than 39 days?
I don't think so.
Ms. Conaway?
According to Deborah, who's the finance auditor, she did the back pay amount, and she said it was a total of 39 days.
That's an awful lot for 39 days,
Sure, that's it.
because
Well, I mean, it's,
that's over $100 a day.
What that do?
I think that's
For
wrong.
39 days, you talking about.
well, it's 39
about
working
6
days, so.
39 working days. You talking about 6 weeks.
I just think, well, we already have something in place, but in the future, we need to, if we're gonna have an appeal process, it needs to be a little speedier, so we won't have to.
Well, I think that's
fall
what,
into that,
I think
yeah.
that's what we, I think that's what we have in place now. It's a speedier process than what we have.
That's what we done established, that's what you're saying.
Right.
It's been voted on by.
Well, actually,
Council has already.
well, actually, it was voted on a while back. The back pay wasn't put in there. I remember voting on that, it's been a while back.
Right.
And now I understand what's going on. Do you all have a copy of that,
There is a copy, if I may.
of the case? I mean, they did have a copy of, Alderwoman Walker wasn't there, so, at that last meeting.
We have the documentation that was presented to us at the hearing, and that's why we based our decision on the documentation that was presented.
I guess my question is, do we need to go into executive session to discuss this, or move on?
I really feel like we do. That's me talking.
Not making no decision.
We've done this process for over 11 years, almost 12 years. And this is the first time that we've encountered what you all call as a problem.
I haven't.
The process states that the administration committee, here's the case, and make a decision on the findings. We come back here, report our decision, and the council votes on the report. There is no provision for us to go back into that setting and go back through those files to bring them back to this body in the executive session, neither on this council floor.
I had just asked the question because I thought she was off longer than that.
Right.
But I know it's not to go into executive session, because you go into executive session, it's about hiring or firing.
Right.
So that's not the issue.
It's a discussion of
I
any
thought
employee.
I thought that there was more time.
I have,
But
Mr. Childers,
I have
what is the
mine.
ruling on that,
I have mine.
as far as executive session, or?
It's only appropriate to go into executive session if you're going to discuss the appointment, termination, or discipline of an employee. In this case, that decision apparently has already been made.
Okay.
So you're simply discussing the financial compensation.
I have mine.
My question was with Alderman Mays, talking about the file, and that if we're going to do that, then we do need to go back into executive session. That was my comment.
okay, but let me say this, Mayor. So Alderman Mays can understand this. And no disrespect to Alderman Mays, neither to you. I have no intentions of going into an executive session with this situation. Now, we had the meeting. It was open to any council person that wanted to come to the meeting. Therefore, if you had some questions or concern, you could have sit in the meeting and made those questions then. It's not the place here, it's not the appropriate place here to go into executive session, neither to discuss it here. And I'm gonna say this again, and I've said it before, I have no intentions of going to executive session with this file. Not now or ever, until the policies and the ordinance has been changed to say that the finding of the administration committee is not a binding decision.
I guess we don't have the files, number one. The only other thing I was thinking about is that if we wanted to broaden the discussion, then we would have to go back there. But, we can't, we don't have the files, so we don't have the information in front of us to even be able to do that. But I just wanted us to realize we need to keep our conversation very limited.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Right.
what I'm
That's-
going with.
I agree, and that's what I'm trying to do. Attorney Childers, can you repeat what you said about the special session again?
Special session is only appropriate when you're discussing the appointment, the termination, or discipline of an employee. Your discussion now is past that. You're now discussing simply the compensation for the missed time.
And whenever it was brought up the first time, I moved it, we go into executive session, then it died for lack of a second.
Right.
Because I asked that we do
Right.
that then. but it was passed, so now all we're dealing with is the money.
Right.
Correct.
So we're,
Right.
we'll just vote on whether we want to, and it's just something that's normally been done. Once it's approved, the process, normally we pay the back pay.
Yeah, I guess it came into the time, how much time it was.
Understand.
But I mean, if that's how much time it was, then that's all we can deal with, so.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Alderman Steps, I apologize for bringing it up.
Oh, no, that's all right.
No, I'm saying it was just a question of the time. I
Okay.
thought that the time had been misstated, that's all.
Okay.
No, but for
I
those
was
that,
there at the first meeting.
Okay.
but for those that were interested in it, she was wrongfully fired. No?
Let's vote on it. Let's vote on
Yeah,
it. Let's vote on the issue.
we're deemed.
I mean, let him finish, let him.
Let's vote on the.
Well, let's
Okay.
just vote on the.
We've got a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. Let's go ahead and vote on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, also, let me do something here, and y'all indulge me for a minute. I've had several calls concerning the removal of the Civic Auditorium Complex, and it was put on the web to ask different ones to come and speak to this issue, and apparently some of them had decided that they were going to call me concerning this issue. And I won't take long. I just want to explain my reasoning for the abolishment. It all has to do with checks and balances. And I think that's what we need to understand. And an effectively run organization always have to have checks and balances, whether it's a private organization or whether it's a public sector. What I've learned is that checks and balances incorporated in the establishment of ordinance for the Convention Center Commission have been ignored by personnel hired to manage the Convention Center and the sitting chair of the Advertising and Promotion Commission, whom I believe has the responsibility to report to this whole council. Before that, I want to pass out, if you would give them, they got their names on to make sure that everybody gets one, their name is on the side, or they could get a chance to look at the current city ordinance, which is specific to the Convention Center. Those ordinances attached to the back of that, everybody should have one. Even the reporter himself, before he asks for it. And I want you all to be able to turn to specifically that ordinance that's out there before us. I've highlighted that those portions that I consider to be checks and balances that are being ignored. On the back of that, you'll see the ordinance itself. And I'm going to read it. The ordinance states, the commission shall be composed of 7 qualified electors of the city. Currently, there are only 3 members. That's not enough for a quorum. It also states, no member of this commission shall hold any remunerative elective office in the city, state, or federal government while a member of that commission. For the past 7 years, a separate claim joint commission has deemed itself the responsible entity for convention center operation. And Alderman Brumman sits on that commission as the chair of that body. If he's sitting on that body with the civic service at our term, that's in total violation. He is sitting on the A&P commission. That is a violation. And as to the commission meetings, I report, say, and the commissioners on this article shall have the exclusive right and power to make purchase of all supplies, apparatus necessary for the management and operation of the city auditorium and related facilities. And my question is, how is this being done without a properly formed commission? And Spade Pesci noted to exclusive and management operation, the Advertising and Tourist Promotion Commission has no authority with respect to the convention center. They haven't had any meetings because they haven't had a quorum to do so. And it raised some questions. I only asked some questions. Based upon the record that was provided to me, the Sheriff Claim Joint Commission met 5 times in 2014, 3 times in 2013, and 4 times in 2012. Only 12 meetings in 3-year period when the total committee meeting was 36. Upon each quarterly report being made to the mayor and the city council by the commissioner, the city council made, and it says, I cannot recall any reports on the convention center coming to the council as a whole. It is obvious from the wording of the ordinance that financial data is to be provided regularly, and this is not being done. Why did I begin this inquiry of these activities? Well, when the convention center hotel owner said he had not gotten his support promised and there was not enough business being generated to sustain the millions of dollars he had invested, I decided to look at the records of the convention center. When I asked for the financial statements, I was told there was no separate statement, but they were combined with the activity of the advertising and tourism promotion. And as to the minutes of this commission meeting that I requested, at the same time, I was told the commission had effectively not met for 7 years, but rather there had been joint meetings of the 2 separate commissions. So I'm getting the idea that things are not operating the way they're supposed to. And upon receipt of the combined financial statement, what do I notice? In 2014, the center generated $106,000 in rentals. In the same year, over $1.5 million of hamburger tax revenues were allocated for the convention center expenses. Generated $106,000, and over $1.5 million was sent for the allocation, for the operation of the convention center. In simple terms, for each $15 spent in the center generated $1 in revenue. Salaries paid to generate the $106,000 in rentals was $611,064. We spent over $600,000 to generate $106,000. Employee benefits was $45,000. Retirement plan contribution $93,000. Cell phone expense $14,000. Vehicle allowance for 3 employees $14,000. Public relations, travel, entertainment, meals $30,000. And $8,500 in uniform expense. Let me say this, don't get me wrong, I'm not making an assertion that any of these expenditures are inappropriate, but their magnitude in relation to rental revenue generation surprises me. In summary, checks and balances for the management and operation of the convention center set out in city ordinance have been ignored for 7 years. During this period, tens of millions of dollars in taxpayer funds have been expended without proper oversight. Having the convention center revert to the department of the city under the budgetary control of the mayor's office, and the city council would reestablish the checks and balances. That's why I put it out there. I'm not trying to point no fingers at anybody, but the facts and things speak for themselves. So if any of you doubt the truthfulness of these reports, you can make an appointment to come to my office. I'll provide you with the audits, the general ledger, and the documents that support this information that I have here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Does that conclude your
That
report,
concludes
sir?
my report.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Public Safety, Alderwoman Walker.
No report.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions.
Mayor, we have an ordinance repealing ordinance number 4467 and abolishing the Pine Bluff Civic Auditorium Complex Commission and for related purposes, up for the second reading.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 4467 and abolishing the Pine Bluff Civic Auditorium Complex Commission and for related purposes.
Place it on the calendar We have an ordinance amending section 26-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas regarding downtown limited time parking, penalty for exceeding time limit, and to add subsection D concerning parking along Barracue Street near and in front of the Jefferson County Courthouse and for related purposes, up for the second reading.
An ordinance amending section 26-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas regarding downtown limited time parking, penalty for exceeding time limit, to add subsection D concerning parking along Barracue Street near and in front of the Jefferson County Courthouse and for related purposes.
Place it on the calendar. We have a resolution adopting the 5-year plan for the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Whereas ordinance number 6025, codified as section 2-3 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, requires that the city craft and adopt a 5-year plan for the advancement of the City of Pine Bluff. And whereas a committee delegated to draft such a plan has met over several months and received suggestions, reviewed information, and deliberated over the contents of the plan. And whereas the committee has completed its deliberative process and has submitted an outline proposal intended to improve the quality of life in the city and delivery of municipal services to residents for review and consideration of the City Council. And whereas the members of the council have reviewed the proposed outline plan and desire to implement it, now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, that the 5-year plan outline for the advancement of the City of Pine Bluff, which is attached here to it and incorporated as is set forth word for word, is hereby approved and adopted. The mayor shall cause all city departments to implement the provisions of the plan as they may affect each department's activities. Section 2. In order to advance the purposes and objectives outlined in the plan, a grant writer/compliance officer position and marketing communications director position should be created with initial funding for the positions to come from the Image Campaign Fund. Section 3, the council will review the plan every quarter, make adjustments based on progress in implementing the plan goals, as well as establishing new approaches and objectives as circumstances require. The mayor shall monitor the progress of the plan and from time to time make suggestions to the council for amendments to the plan or other action to more effectively achieve the goals set forth in the plan.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that a resolution adopting the 5-year plan for the City of Pine Bluff to be approved. Floor is now open for discussion. Yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
have a question.
Uh-huh.
In looking at section 2 here, it talks about in order to advance the purpose and objectives outlined in the plan, a grant writer, compliance officer position, and a marketing communication director should be created with the initial funding for the position to come from the Image Campaign. My question is, we have the funds for this year for the position in the Image Campaign. Where would that money come from next year to fund it again?
You asking me the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to budget for it. And I'm in hopes that whenever we get the procurement director up, purchasing director, we've reviewed all the applications that we've received, and we're getting ready to make a decision on that, that we will receive the savings that was projected at the lowest amount, which was 5%. And 5%, I believe, equated to 300 and something thousand, wasn't it, Steve? So I'm in hopes that the savings from this will more than be enough to move this along.
I guess my concern is, Mayor, what happens if it doesn't? Because we've had budget meetings and we've had to cut the budget for various departments, and we're still looking to cut budgets, the police department and fire department, safety, and we've been talking about cutting budgets, and now we're looking at a budget adjustment. We're going to add another $150,000 to a budget that's already is in trouble. And I guess, it's easy for us to project, and I think that's what got us in trouble a year or two ago. We projected the income from the sales tax to be so much, but when it didn't come in, it caused some concern that we had to go back and make some budget adjustment. And now we're getting ready to do the same thing again. And my question is, I would like to think that the proposed information is true of what Steve is saying. And I would like to think that we're going to get that kind of money. But my question is, what if we don't? And we put some people on payroll. And we
Well,
can't pay them.
Well, to answer your question, actually, the budget or the amount that's in the image campaign fund equates to 150-something thousand. So that's almost enough for 2 years because it'll be 80,000 and some change per year. So we've got enough for 2 years. And I'm in hopes that with the grant writer and compliance officer, that what they'll save us as far as bringing in money will be huge as far as grant writing. But also just keeping the existing grants in compliance so we'll not have to pay back any more grants. That costs the city as well. The marketing communications person, I'm hopes, will bring in the revenue, as Alderman Brown Sr. states, that we need to increase our tax base. So I'm in hopes that will, when you've got a business, you've got to be able to market that business. You've got to be able to sell the business. And our city, as far as what we know, has never been in that position before to market our city, our strengths, and what we're known for.
One other question, then I will yield the floor. We were talking about collaboration and the partners. I said we have the Chamber of Commerce here, the financial institutions, training through UAPB and CI colleges. My question is, have we contacted these institutions and they have stated that whatever training that is going to be required, that they've committed to that training?
Yes, sir. Through the many meetings that we've had since March or February, the answer to your question is yes, we have.
Okay. And I guess the B part of that question is now we are asking UAPB to provide some training for us, and when we had a $50,000 request for some people to come in here to do some work for this city, we rejected it and turned it down. And now we're coming back here and asking them to do some free work when we had money put in there for training for the students.
That's right, we had asked for $50,000 for student training.
Right.
And it was voted down. But now
That money was not allocated. You were changing the line item to something else, so that you can't say that money was appropriated for that
I
purpose.
can say what I please.
Well, you can say whatever you like, but the fact is that it was already appropriated for another line item, and you wanted
No,
to change
was
it
not.
to
It was
something
not.
else.
It was allocated and approved for a purchasing director.
It was appropriated $50,000 long before you got on the council.
Well, that's fine, but I'm going off of this budget.
Well, you going off something you don't know nothing about.
Okay,
But I do have.
let's get back to the motion and the discussion on the floor here. Any other comments or discussion? Yes, sir.
Yes. Initially, when we started this 3 to 5 year plan, I think it was started out as a 5-year plan, but I think somebody, and maybe me, said that we wanted to be sooner than 5 years, because in 2002, Alderman Irene Holcomb did an ordinance that does the following that we're doing right now. This is the ordinance. We did not follow through on it from 2002. So when we started it this year, we was backing up the ordinance of 2002. So it actually is an ordinance that was started by a former alderman or alderwoman. Now, there are some people talking about, and there's people, Alderman Steph was discussing the matter about where was the money gonna come from. Okay, so in those meetings that we attended, we voted to hire these people. But in that meeting, I made the statement that I want those people to look like Pine Bluff and to love Pine Bluff. I do not want people that want to come in here and get a job and live somewhere else and go out at the country club in another city or town and talk about what is not going on in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Too many years we are set back and let people be on our boards and our commissions they don't live here, and they don't really have a strong feeling for Pine Bluff, Arkansas. This is real. Now, whether we get this plan to work or not, I hope that we can. But I definitely want these two people to look like Pine Bluff and to love Pine Bluff. Now, that's my take on that issue. Thank you.
Mayor,
Any other-
small statement.
Yes, sir.
At the beginning of the budget process, it didn't just happen when we talked about putting the money in there. That request was made at the beginning of the budget process about these students from UAPB. It was in the budget, but it was not funded. So this wasn't something that just came up. It was in the beginning of the budget process. And I'm not trying to hold the city back and hold us in bondage, but we have to be realistic about what we are dealing with, because if you come out here, and I can understand what you're saying, that in 2 years we should be seeing these savings. But after 2 years, if they haven't, then maybe we might need to come back to that point. But I've contacted some people at UAPB, and they don't know nothing about no agreement that has been made that they're gonna provide some training. And maybe what we need to do before we get out here with this venture, we need to get some signed statements from some people that are stakeholders out at the university saying that here's what we will provide to the council and to the person here and A, B, C, D. And I think that needs to happen rather than for us to make a general statement saying, yeah, they came to the meeting, it was discussed at the meeting, but now the people that the decision makers know nothing about this.
The person who came one time, and I would like to ask, and Mr. Childress, and it said collaboration and partners. If you have a partnership, does that mean an agreement between 2 or more people? Mr. Childress.
Well, it depends on the context that you use it in, of course. We use words loosely sometimes. When we partner or collaborate with people, it doesn't necessarily have to be in writing. If you're going to go into business with them and share expenses and profits and things of that nature, certainly you would have it in writing. I think, I don't know the context it's used in that outline. I assume it means that we will interact with them and try to take advantage of each other's assets and act in that fashion.
Okay, but we don't have an agreement with UAPB. I don't know about CR because they have not heard of this. And you know, the word keeps saying that they was at a meeting. The chancellor was at one meeting, but there has not been a partnership. But we can form a partnership for something that is wanted, but we can't form a partnership to help the students at UAPB. But still, we expect to use UAPB's name to get things moving in the direction that we want them to
I think
be.
we're getting a little sidetracked here.
Excuse me,
Well,
don't cut me off.
Okay.
Well, just
All right.
one
You don't have to
second.
raise your voice at me.
No,
Oh, wait.
Okay, well, I'd appreciate you
Let's
not
just-
raise your voice.
Let's just stop. Let's just stop.
I appreciate
you
that.
not.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, you
We're
weren't, okay, it
going
didn't
to
seem like
stop
you were
here, and
gonna-
I'm, okay, no, okay,
That's your
hey,
questions to the
okay.
mayor.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right now. Okay, you either have a comment, and I think Alderman Boyd had his hand up. Yes, thank you, sir. If it pertains to this.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, this is the same thing we discussed in all the meetings that we had, and I think all of us who signed off on it came out of that meeting in agreement that this is what we're gonna do.
Yes.
That is correct.
That's the majority of the council.
That's correct. Any other comments?
But
Call the question.
I have a comment.
Any other question or comment?
Call the question. Let's vote.
Mayor, Alderman Boyd, from what she said, that the people that was there had, that the name was on it, but we do not see a name here or anything indicating that there was an agreement with UAPB.
Okay.
There's not, Dr.
All right.
Davis or no one that is speaking for him.
Okay. Is that your comment? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
attended some of the meetings, not all. You know, I look at this position of $80,000. I mean, we're cutting our fire department by $100 and some thousand over a period of time, and we having some budget cuts coming into 2016. And anything like Alderman Brown Senior was saying, we have a lot of people on our boards and commissions that doesn't live here and things like that. Now, a lot of this stuff should have been done, taken care of years ago. A lot of these issues that we're addressing now, I've done some research on them, and we're trying to solve problems now that should have been solved 10 years ago, and a lot of you all been on the council that long, you know. But as far as that position, I mean, just another person making $80,000, really just coming into town or coming to work. Really
Not one person, sir, two people.
Well, two people,
Yes, sir.
and you know, our payroll is full of people that's really some, you know, if your shoe fits, wear it, that are non-productive. And this is basically what we're getting at. Like I said, I came to some of those meetings, good ideas, but I've seen a lot of paperwork that plans have been drafted up over the years, and once this is voted on, I was even on the council, a lot of this stuff has just been put in a file. And when the plans, to me, is seeing it and doing it and fixing it. But when you put it on paper, it's just a prop to show the people that you sat down, you came up with a discussion, and you wrote something down. But it's all about getting the job done and fixing it. These people are tired of, in Pine Bluff are tired of us just up here voting on things, putting it on paper, and tomorrow, you never see anything about it.
To answer your comments, one of the reasons why you look at it short-term, 3 years to 5 years, is for that very reason. The citizens want to see some action and something that is done, something that is visible. That is the purpose of a 3-year, 5-year plan. Any city that is moving forward and very progressive now will have 3 to 5 year plans that line up with their long-term plan, because you have action items that are achievable and measurable. And that's some of the things in which we talked about in this particular group. Alderman Brumman?
Mayor, I just want to say that I agree with you, Alderman Mays, that a lot of things haven't been followed up on, but there is, in this legislation, it says we're going to quarterly review this, make adjustments, and move forward. So I think that we've done our homework in trying to get something going. And all this on collaboration and stuff, all we did was said, these are some people we want to ask to help us along the way. There's no contracts, there's no agreements, and to try to make it into something it's not is, I just like to see us go ahead and vote on it, Mayor.
It's a partnership where people come together. It's not a legal contract. It's a partnership where we have talked with them. So let's go ahead and do roll call, please.
Alderman Brumman?
Aye.
Alderman Step?
No.
Alderwoman Walker?
No.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Brown Senior?
Aye.
Alderman Mays?
Aye.
Alderman Holcomb? Alderman Brown Jr.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor, I'd like to present to the clerk and have her put a copy of the minutes of all those meetings. So if our constituents would like to go and see who attended those meetings, what was said, why the decisions were made, it was all in there. I mean, we started on that thing April the 2nd and just completed it about a week ago. A lot of us put our heart and soul into it. Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing up to $100,000 for improvement of certain city parks.
Whereas the Economic Community Development Department has received monies from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which may be used for improving urban parks. And whereas there is great need for improving Mississippi Hudson and J.C. Jeffries parks in the cities, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. The Economic Community Development Department is authorized and directed to utilize up to $100,000 for improvements to the Mississippi Hudson and J.C. Jeffries neighborhood parks.
Move for adoption.
Amendment, please. This was to utilize $100,000, not up to. For improvement, because there was, I think $200,000 or more bought back. It was $100,000.
Has there been a motion made for this?
Mayor,
we can call that a scrivener's error, and it won't require a motion.
How do you spell that?
I have no idea. It sounds real good, though.
It did, legal, I thought it was a legal term.
And also, Alderman Holcomb is a sponsor. We originally did this together, and I just called it in. That's how my name was on it. And I would like anyone else, if name wants to be on it, may do so.
Okay.
I guess, why did we choose those particular parks and not MLK Park, Townsend Park? I'm not talking about like the baseball field. You can go over to MLK Park, and obviously the swings and everything over there need some work. And I'm just wondering why we didn't consider some of the other parks.
Okay, have you been to the park, to the Hudson Park? Do you know where it is?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's
But
why. Do you know where the Mississippi Park is?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, we do. The Hudson Park is on 6th Street, and it has a basketball goal. And any day that you go down through there, it's filled with kids playing. But it's nothing there for the young people, for the smaller kids, and they just there. And Mississippi Park does not have anything. They have one old swing and one bench. So it's not like it's rolling in playground equipment. That's why it was chosen. Because our constituents are asking why they can't have something in their park so that they can take their kids out to play.
I just got a
Okay,
question.
Alderman Holcomb.
Mayor, if I can answer Alderman Brum's question. 2 weeks ago, we had a community development meeting. Those parks are addressed. Martin Luther King Park, and a couple other parks.
They're going to be handled?
They're going to be handled.
Thank you. That's all I need to hear. Thank you.
Since I was brought into it, may I speak?
Are you finished, Alderman Holcomb?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You got me straddling the fence on this issue, definitely. But I do know that April, and she's not here, I want you to come forward in a minute. I do know that she applied for some assistance. It was some kind of a payback, half or grants for Townsend Park for equipment. And that's what we discussed that. But Townsend Park has to be one of the initial parks that we work on first, and I don't know exactly what it's going to cost to do that. But however, I do realize that these other parks need some attention. But I was under the impression that when we left, we were going to give attention to all of the parks. In fact, we were going to do some more grants for those parks. So if I could get April and Mr. Matthews, you can stand by to come forward.
Okay. Can I just make my statement?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that I really believe that this resolution is a little premature because like they're about to state here, we already have plans to complete the Townsend Park baseball field, and we also have a pending grant that we need to complete in order to get a last payment of $100,000 from that particular grant. So to go and say, okay, we're just going to spend $100,000 without any types of numbers being done on these 3 parks, this is just a little premature. Now, I could have gone, I won't even say that. I would just say we need to wait until we get the final numbers on how much it's going to cost to finish the Townsend Park baseball field, how much it's going to cost to complete the playground equipment that we need to put in Townsend Park in order to receive the grant that's pending. And then, whatever money's left, we can determine how we want to spend it. But this is just a little premature.
You know, that is the problem with these parks. They have been getting what was left, and that's nothing. These are our constituents, and we are going to fight for them. If you don't vote for it, I can't make you vote for it, but the whole city needs attention. We have already spent $1 million at Townsend Park, and it's still more and more and more coming. But you're talking about parks, one that doesn't even have a swing, and one that have a swing that is broken. and in fact, 2 that doesn't have swing, and 1 that have a swing that is broken. And then you're gonna say that it's okay, just forget about those kids. We'll just, keep putting money over in Townsend Park, to, whatever, I don't know what it's.
I've gone by all the parks, Ms. Walker. I'm very aware of what's going on. I've seen every park that's on this list.
Okay. Ms. April, can you come to the podium and answer the questions?
Sure. First of all, I would like to say that we are trying very hard at parks to start fixing up and cleaning up within the very limited budget that we have. Okay, we don't want any of our parks to look bad, and my maintenance crew works really hard to keep the grass cut. We've got a very reduced maintenance crew now because that's all we can afford. However, the issue at hand is that we have some items that need to be finished out at Townsend Park Baseball Field, and namely those are the some more bleachers with bleacher covers. We need scorekeeper stands, and we wanted to finish fencing the area to control access to it for the baseball area. And that was part of what I understood Mr. Matthews wanted to use some of that money for. In addition, part of Townsend Park was paid for, the lighting was paid for by a state parks grant. It's called an outdoor recreation grant. And initially when the grant was applied for, which happened before I came on, they were awarded the grant by receiving more points than other people. It was a competitive process. Part of the points that were awarded to this application that we submitted from the city was for a playground to go into Townsend Park. So if we choose not to put that playground in Townsend Park, we will have to give back, well, we will lose 20% of that grant. So which it rounds out right around $70,000. So we were hoping to use some of the monies that Mr. Matthews has identified to put a playground, a small playground, in Townsend Park so that we could collect the rest of the grant monies that are coming from that grant. Now, the lights and everything have been already paid for out of the city budget. The bathrooms have been built and paid for out of the city budget, and the portion of the splash park that grant went towards has already been paid for out of the city budget. So those are just funds to reimburse us from the grant. We will lose some of those funds if we don't put the playground in.
But did you get a grant for this playground equipment and
the grant? Right. The playground equipment was written specifically into the grant.
Okay. So therefore, if you had money for the grant that you had written, not this money, because this money came as a result of the money being spent from community development, and that should not have been spent. And then it came back. Are you aware of that? And then it came back, so it was to be used for other things. And it didn't have anything to do with the grant, so I'm assuming that when you did the grant, you had enough for what you were supposed to do.
I can't speak to that. I think what they were looking at is a total pot of money. And the way I understand State Parks does it is the more projects you can apply it to, the more likely you are to receive the grant funds. So it's possible that, and maybe Larry can speak to this because I think he was involved with the process, but that's where we stand with that right now.
Okay,
but
this was, Mr. Matthews, would you come and tell how this money came about?
Mayor, let me ask one more question.
Before we move any further, if you would, please, if you're going to call a department up here, please come through me because I'm the only one that can call a department head up here. So, Mr. Matthews, please.
He had another question.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't write it down. I got it. In that meeting, you did tell us that there were more monies out there for park equipment that if you write those grants, then you can get that money. And it's probably be a 50 or it's a 50-50 or 80-20 or some kind of grants. Can you explain that?
Well, there are various playground grants that we're in the process of applying for. Most of them require a match, and that's where we have a little bit of a struggle, is coming up with where we can actually provide the match grants. But yeah, and that's what I was saying, is that and this is something I know Larry's looking into, but in my mind, if we can use some of those HUD funds as a match for further grant monies, then our money's going to go a lot further in fixing up our playgrounds.
Is this for Ms. April or Mr. Matthews?
No.
Okay.
I'll ask my question. Well, maybe Larry can answer this. And maybe my question was that Alderman Holcomb and Brown said that this was for various parks. Have a figure been put to what it's going to cost per park? And how much money does Townsend Park need? And are we trying to do everything out of the $100,000? Are we going to use the $200,000 that was returned?
At this point, no specifics were laid out. When we had the original meeting, after we got our refund back from the Department of Treasury, our department, along with Parks Department, presented a proposal to the committee. In the proposal, we wanted to complete the baseball field, and we wanted to put some playground equipment at Townsend Park as well as Martin Luther King. That was the proposal that was laid out to the committee.
At what cost?
Well, we don't know the cost at this point. When we left the meeting, April was to go back, analyze what was going on at Mississippi, at the 3 parks that Mrs. Walker was referring to. She was going to review that while we got the quotes back to complete the baseball field with the bleachers and the fencing and the few things that we have left to do at the baseball field. And she was going to analyze the playground equipment, what we were going to put in at Townsend Park in order to get the money back, as well as do an assessment on the other 3 parks.
Has that been done?
No, we have not done it because we're in the process of doing that. We just got the money back at the last council meeting to appropriate it to parks. So we're going to have to go out and get the bids on the bleachers. We're going to have to go out and get the bids on the fencing and the other thing to finish the baseball field. We're in the process of doing that now. She's assessing, I assume she is assessing what needs to do at the other parks. And that's where we left off when we left the meeting.
I just think that if we're going to be talking about some of the parks, then I think that we ought to have a cost that's associated with these parks as to what it's going to cost for the equipment here and what it's going to cost there. And I think that that's what we need to do before we make a decision.
Alderman.
Go ahead, April.
We were in the process of doing that, but we kind of got a little sidetracked with splitting the money at this point. Okay.
Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, and that's something that I've been trying to work on since I've been here. What I've got in the process, it kind of takes a while because you have to decide what you would really like to see in parks. And I'll go one step further here before I go into that. We've just developed a community survey. We're going to start passing out to members of the community all over, hopefully, to see what they want in parks. So we're going to hopefully get some voices from our community, and get their input. But along with that, I've been starting to put together numbers for what it's going to cost to fix all of our other parks up, as well as I've been putting together numbers for what it costs to maintain each of our parks, so that we know exactly where we're spending our money and how we're spending our money. So I've got a playground representative right now that I had submitted. I took him out to MLK Park, for example, and told him what I would like to see in different areas, and he's giving me playground estimates for each of the different areas. I've had our maintenance person out there with me. We've looked at the different things we need to do to fix up several of our parks, and we've put together numbers on those as well. So,
Have you put any numbers to the one that's particularly mentioned here in the resolution?
what we have done, we've gone out to 33rd and Mississippi several times. And I've gone out with Kevin, and he and I have looked at what we need to do to fix the area up, what we can do out there. Now, I was coming from a standpoint of what we can do within our budget, but we've already identified several things that we're going to be able to do out there as in a response to the citizens that came and spoke to us. Hudson Park, I've gone out there several times with Kevin as well. Right now, it's being used by a lot of the football team out there. There's a small playground. It's an old playground. It has a little bit of climbing equipment for the kids. And we go through regularly about twice a year where we replace all the basketball nets so that the goals are all usable. We have a problem out there with the fence continues to be torn down because they like to celebrate on the fence after they make slam dunks. But but we've been out there to look at that, and we've also in the past been out to Belmont and have identified some things that we'd like to do out there as well. Once again, it all depends on what funding we can identify and how we can apply it. But
what for Mississippi Park that Alderman Holcomb and I have looked at things as well as listened to the constituents. What did you identify at Mississippi Park?
Well, the first thing we looked at was the basketball goal that's broken out there. We need to repair that. It's an old goal, and it's not going to be as easy to repair as a newer goal would have been, but Kevin's already looked at that and identified some parts that he can get for it. We're going to put in some new barbecues for them out there. We're going to fix the broken pipes around the parking lot area. We're going to take out the old swing that was the rotating swing because we feel like that's a danger, and we're going to fix up the swings that are there already. We're going to try to take out some of the things that, like the bars that are in bad shape and present a hazard.
It's not any bars or rotating swings in Mississippi Park.
Well, the rotating thing doesn't have swings on it now. It's old and it's been damaged and it needs to come out. So there's a set of swing sets, and those are going to be fixed up. In fact, he had fixed them once already. And then there's this funny looking thing that has a T on it, and that was a rotating swing at years and years and years ago.
It had to been years and years ago.
Yeah, I know.
But to swing, yeah, and they need a restroom out there. Did you see that it wasn't a restroom?
I understood that there was a restroom. I don't know. I just have hearsay as to why the restroom was removed from there. That happened years ago as well. But at this point, we hadn't talked about putting a restroom back in because that exceeds what budget expenses we have. But I was looking at putting some porta potties out there for them.
Well, it's, I guess that's the same thing. The fact is that the children, when they are more concerned about their children, how they have to go and use the bathroom, and which is really unacceptable.
Well,
and as far as they have one table set out there. Now they have two.
There's a concrete table and there's two picnic tables.
Concrete table. And but the basketball goal, when we were down there 2 weeks ago, one of them was pulled down, but they pushed it back up. But the swing set is old and rusty. The kids can't even play on it.
Unfortunately, that's the way the swings are in virtually all of our parks. So we have to.
And to answer Alderman Stepp, as far as how much your equipment costs, we were provided with some books, and sometimes they can be very elaborate. And then you can have some that may be $20,000 or $30,000 for a combination set. But in the meantime, they don't have anything. and to put it aside. This money came back. If this money had not came back, now as far as Townsend Park is concerned, we have made budget adjustment after budget adjustment, and it's still not enough. And it's still gonna be some more. But if this is turned back money, but we've had money that come out of our budget and everything else to go to Townsend Park, and it's time for other people to have something as well. So you're talking about 3 parks to share $100,000.
We still,
Oh, okay, any other questions for Ms. April? Yes, sir.
April, good evening. On the scoreboard keeper stand, what is that?
That's where somebody's going to sit and keep score. They're going to run the scoreboard as people make runs and.
At Townsend Park?
At Townsend Park.
It's in place at the press box.
I never saw any plans in place for the
Alright,
press
okay.
box.
A small playground equipment, what did that mean?
The small playground.
You said you're gonna put some small playground equipment at the Townsend Park.
Okay, right across the, I don't know which road it is, I can't remember the name of it, but if you go right across the little drive.
That's in my ward, I understand.
So you would basically walk out of the west side of the playground, cross that little road, and you could walk right into the park over there. Okay,
we get a
it's on the side where the big rec center
Can we get a
is.
drawing or a cost before we order that or get people to put it in?
I have all that. Now, it's flexible depending on what we'd like to spend, but playground equipment's expensive, unfortunately. So I tried to ask for a design that we could get the most bang for our bucks, so to speak.
Right now, we're not getting the bigger bang for our bucks right now. We can spend $80,000 and come up with something that's, you look at it and you're like, well, that's a whole nother story. But back to the parks over in the first ward, I'm for that. I think we need to kind of spread some money out. As far as Hudson Park and Mississippi Park, we need to put, those parks have just had no upgrade in 20 years. And I've had calls from over there. I had a porta potty put over in Mississippi Park, back up over there, because there wasn't any people wanted to come out there and it's not family friendly. Matter of fact, I don't think any of our parks are family friendly like they should be. And that's the direction that we should be going as far as Townsend Park as well. You should be able to take your family out there and feel comfortable with all the activities going on in that park area.
Well, that's our goal.
working on.
May I interject?
Well,
Alderman Mays,
may I finish
which committee are you over?
Public Works?
Thank you, okay.
Right, I understand that, but it's a lot of money. But the thing about it, we've been giving you all, our Mr. Matthews' office and the parks, a outlet to see what kind of direction that we're going in, since you are the directors, which a director is somebody directing that department in a certain way, and we're just not seeing it.
Can we vote on this
Yes,
resolution?
any other question? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor. Just a second. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to reduce the 100,000 to 75,000.
Do you want to amend this resolution then?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to amend the resolution?
Second.
Okay. A resolution authorizing the city up to $75,000 for improvements of certain city parks. The amended resolution is now open for discussion.
I just have a question. So are we saying with the 75,000, Ms. Walker, are you saying you don't want to give priority to Townsend at all, or are we not trying to spend that money there? That's what I really want to know.
Wait, beg your pardon.
No, what I'm saying is, are we trying not to spend the money to complete the baseball field and to add some playground equipment to Townsend? Are we just not doing that? Because we don't know the numbers on that yet.
Apparently not, because that we don't know the numbers, and I don't know when we will know the numbers, because we've had budget adjustment after budget adjustment. But Alderman Holcomb and I, we are willing to go of the 75,000, I think is fair.
But my question is,
I call for the vote.
if that amount comes to more than $125,000, then we won't be able to complete
To
those
what
projects. To complete Townsend Park, to complete the baseball field.
The money that was returned was over 200,000.
Yes, ma'am, and you're asking for 75 of it for three
No,
parks.
it's 75, that's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I'm asking you is if 125,000 is not enough to complete those projects, are you saying that you don't want to complete those projects?
I think it would be, it's something like 175,000, and I call for the vote.
Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, I'd like a clarification on, if we pass this, Joe, city attorney, will that money be appropriated to the Parks Department, the way this reads?
Excuse me, we can't appropriate the federal funds to the park. We can use
You can use it to
funds
help fund the
for
park,
the park.
but you're going to control
Yes.
how the money is spent.
Yes.
That's all I was asking to see, because when we give money to the parks, it's their money.
No,
we-
these are federal funds.
Okay.
The projects will have to come directly out of the federal IDIS system for whatever use for the parks.
That's what he
Alderman
said.
Holcomb?
I know we called it for both of them. I'm misunderstanding. We were under the impression that the money was already set aside for the Townsend Park when we left that meeting.
No, there's no number set for those projects yet.
I'm the chairman of the commission, so let me explain that. The meeting was for us just to accept the money back. There was no appropriation, there was no solid direction for any of the money. It was projected thoughts of where the money might go. But Mr. Matthews and April said in that meeting that they wanted to first find out what it would cost to finish Townsend Park. And I do remember saying that it had to be, some of the money had to be spent for playground equipment for Townsend Park in order that we would not lose a large amount of money. So that much I wanted to say.
Okay, any other question?
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Matthews?
Actually, the money was just a $200,000 budget adjustment to the Community Development Department. The purpose wasn't established until it came to the council floor as to where the money was to go.
Okay.
I
May
just-
we, yes, sir.
I'm just saying, I just feel like we need to wait till we get those numbers back before we start
I agree.
appropriating money to certain parks and, I just think this is a little premature.
Okay, we're going to vote, we're going to do roll call on the amendment first, which is to amend the resolution to 75,000. So may we have roll call, please?
Alderman Brumman.
Aye.
Alderman Steph.
Aye.
Alderwoman Walker.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Brown Senior.
Aye.
Alderman Mays.
Aye.
Alderman Holcomb. Alderman Brown Jr.
Aye.
Okay, the amendment passes. Now to the resolution itself.
We need a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Okay, it's been.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that the amended resolution authorizing up to 75,000 for improvements of certain city parks. Floor is now open for discussion.
Mayor, that's 75,000, not up to.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. 75,000. Oh, how do you spell that? Yeah, I know, that's a big word. It's getting late in the evening. Okay, floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, let's have roll call, please.
Alderman Brumman.
No.
Alderman Steph.
Yes.
Alderwoman Walker.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd. Alderman Brown Senior.
Aye.
Alderman Mays.
Yes.
Alderman Holcomb. Alderman Brown Jr.
No.
I think I have 62. Motion passes.
That concludes our agenda, Mayor.
Okay. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion. City council meeting adjourned.